everybody. It's Thursday. It's just after Halloween. In fact, today is All Souls Day, even though yesterday was All Saints. It's sort of All Hallows Eve. Anyway, the Celtic festival is called Samhain, or Samhain, depending on where you are in the Celtic lands. And our topic today is Gothic genre. Massive, amazing, from 1754 with the Castle of Otranto up to the present day with Goth Girl and all sorts of other things. So it's going to be a slam, which means everybody's got only a limited amount of time, 3 minutes, because there's so many of us this afternoon. Welcome, everybody. And to talk about their favourite Gothic novel, or maybe not even their favourite, but one they know well and want to proselytise about and talk to others about. So I'm going to start. Here goes the...
Right, Nuala.
Okay.
Nuala, you're doing the timer.
All right, okay. So I'm
Yes,
going to talk about Frances Hodgson Burnett's classic novel, A Secret Garden. Now, you can hear you ask, why is this a Gothic novel? Well, there's a mystery at the heart of it. In fact, there are two mysteries. Why is the garden hidden? Why is it secret? And who is the person crying in the corridor? And why is Mr. Craven so bizarre? Why is he never at home? So at the heart of the novel, chapter 13...
Yeah.
Yes, I hear you say 13.
Yes, nodding, good.
Yes. In some cultures, 13 is unlucky. However, here we are. Mary, who has come from India, is pursuing this crying down the long corridors of this very, very old house. It's Tudor, I think. Okay. So, and because she's in Yorkshire, it's called Wuthering. Now, if you've heard of the book Wuthering Heights, this was written after Wuthering Heights. Frances Hodgson Burnett is using that word to describe the wind and also the sound of this crying. She'd been lying awake, turning from side to side for about an hour, when suddenly something made her sit up in bed and turn her head toward the door, listening. She listened, and she listened. "It isn't the wind now," she said in a loud whisper. "That isn't the wind. It is different. It is that crying I heard before." "I am going to find out what it is," she said. "Everybody is in bed, and I don't care about Mrs. Medlock. I don't care." Now, this is what makes this a particular Gothic novel, because it's night time. It's not modern day. There was a candle by her bedside. She took it up and went softly out of the room. Now, this is very similar also to Jane Eyre, another classic Charlotte Bronte Gothic novel. The corridor looked very long and dark, but she was too excited to mind that. She thought she remembered the corners she must turn to find the short corridor with the door covered by tapestry, a secret door. The one Mrs. Medlock had come through the day she lost herself. The sound had come up that passage, so she went on with her dim light, almost feeling her way, her heart beating so loud that she fancied she could hear it. Exaggerated feelings, fear. This is also Gothic. The far-off faint crying went on and led her. Sometimes it stopped for a moment or so and then began again. Was this the right corner to turn? She stopped and thought. Yes, it was. If you're doing English analysis, you know that very short sentences, everybody's raising the tension. Down this passage and then to the left and then up 2 broad steps and then to the right again. This is also a Gothic trope, a very labyrinthine house. Yes, there was the tapestry door. She pushed it open very gently and closed it behind her. And she stood in the corridor and heard the crying quite plainly, though it was not loud. It was on the other side of the wall at her left, and a few yards further on, there was a door. She could see a glimmer of light coming from beneath it. The someone was crying in that room, and it was quite a young someone. That's Secret Garden, and it's my favourite Gothic novel. It's a lovely combination of rebirth as well. Thank you very much.
Well, Miss Emily. See, 3 minutes isn't long, is it?
Not long. Not when you've got a lot to say. Right, who's up next?
Oh, we don't all volunteer at once. Go on in, Nuala. Right, so Phoebe, you're going to be on the roundabout. You will get a go.
Yeah, go. Phoebe's next. Okay, great.
Yeah. So is it time to start now?
Go. Okay, I'm going to talk about Frankenstein. It's a classic Gothic novel. It's by Mary Shelley, and a lot of people view Frankenstein, or the so-called doctor in the book, as the greatest Gothic mad scientist ever. I disagree. I think that should be Dr. Jekyll. Frankenstein didn't actually finish his college. He dropped out, which was, kind of weird. Anyway, so his project throughout this book is, to get away from something that he created. So he went to a graveyard and sewed little bits of dead people together to make his monster. And he went through some massive scientific procedure to bring this monster to life, which I think was a very bad idea, but, and so he did, and he brought it to life, and, some form of life. So, and then, he wasn't too happy about that. He started running away from it, and the monster it got out of where it was being kept, and it ran off to stay in multiple places around Europe, so mainly in French barnyards. And he learned to speak different languages, mainly French and English, and throughout the book. And then you see Victor Frankenstein is going to get married, and he starts receiving almost letters or messages from his monster saying, I'll be with you on your wedding night. And he's like, I don't know what that means, which I think was kind of stupid. But, there's a reason he didn't get through college. And, and so then the monster killed his wife.
Spoilers.
Yeah, he wasn't... So it's not like a particularly happy story, but there's not many Gothic novels that are. And he also, refuses to make his monster a female counterpart, worrying that they would have children, which I think was kind of stupid because he was sewing the body parts together. He could have just, taken out the necessary organs to have children. He was just not very smart, or he didn't have very much common sense. There's always these possibilities.
You have to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah. So, one of my favourite Gothic books. Another book that I would like to talk about is Jekyll and Hyde. I'm not sure how much time I have left, but basically there's this scientist, and he's the best scientist and doctor ever, and he goes around being a lovely person, and then he drinks one of his own inventions and becomes a different almost persona, Mr. Hyde, and, he just kind of goes around being awful. But the story follows him as he tries to deal with Mr. Hyde, and Mr. Hyde tries to deal with Dr. Jekyll. It's a great story. I really enjoy that. And I think they're both, but I think they're, one of them's a good scientist. The other one could use some work.
Well done.
That.
You did 2 books in 3 minutes. Good job.
Did you leave the chair yet?
Annabelle, you up next? Yeah.
Yes, and then, so...
Thank you to our trusty timekeeper.
Okay, so...
Are we ready,
Ready.
timekeepers? Yeah.
Okay, so I haven't finished this book. I started reading it yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I can't really remember. But it's quite good so far. I think it falls into a good Gothic horror novel because it's about a teenage girl, and
This is true. This is a Gothic trope, a heroine
In-
who's Gothic,
yeah.
yes, who is very young.
in a school, and because she's the typical odd left out girl in the school, it's quite uncommon because you never in books a lot of the time the characters are quite popular,
Oh, right, okay, yes, I see what you mean.
in books where it's a teenage girl involved. But I think it's also quite interesting that the people who because she's really unpopular, but she's got the most power.
And what is her power? Do you know yet?
I think it was that she can kill people, but I'm not really sure.
But
I think that's quite obvious.
in a certain way. In a certain way that
Yeah.
is unique. Yeah, let's just say that.
Okay.
And it's also quite when you at the start of the book, it starts quite usual, and then it flips. So,
Okay, and what made you want to read it?
well, I wanted to read something scary or Gothic before Halloween,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want to read The Shining, but then my mum said, I'm not really sure if that's the best Stephen King book.
Yeah.
And because, like, if I want to read, like, a scary book, I want it to be, like, good as well, so. And then she said Carrie would be quite a good one because it's about a teenage girl as well.
So relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's his debut as well, his first novel.
Is it?
Yeah. So yeah. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
So he started at a very high level, didn't he then?
Yeah.
Famously rescued from the bin because he didn't like it at first. He put it in the bin, and his wife
right.
convinced him to pick it out of the bin. So there you
What
go.
is the blurb?
Yeah.
Got time?
Okay. Carrie White has a gift. The gift of
Telekinesis.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah. To be invited to prom night by Tommy Ross is a dream come true for Carrie. The first step towards social acceptance by her high school colleagues. But events will take a decidedly... I can't read this.
Decidedly. Macabre. Yep.
Turn on the horrifying and endless night as she is forced to exercise her terrible gift on the town that mocks and loathes her.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah.
Just really appropriate, Annabelle. Thank you. Good work. Yeah.
Harry.
Macabre is a word really associated with the Gothic, is it not, Mr. Humphries?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. I think every one of these books on this table
Yeah,
I've
macabre,
got an element of the macabre about them.
Yeah.
So well done.
Beth
Very
is
good.
macabre, as we know. Those of us who are studying it at this moment. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody volunteering?
Juno.
Great, Juno. Thank you.
Phoebe next after Juno.
And okay.
Well, I've got a book called Goth Girl, which I read quite a few years ago, but I remember really enjoying it. So it's about a girl called Ada Goth, which is a pretty stereotypical, well, not stereotypical, but, you know, it's quite simple that you can see that this is a Gothic novel already. And then especially when you read the rest of the blurb, she lives in Ghastly Gorm Hall with her father, Lord Goth, lots of servants and at least half a dozen ghosts. But she hasn't got any friends to explore her enormous creepy house with. So, yeah, you can already tell it's pretty Gothic. But what I really liked about this is, A, the really nice illustrations, because Chris Riddell, he always has really good illustrations in his books.
We remember previous Litsoc, don't we? All?
Yeah, we had a one. You didn't. We did.
And also, like, the drawing, like, a kind of, like, map
Fabulous.
of the house at the beginning, and I always like maps. And then another thing I really liked about this book, as well as, like, see if I can find one, were the footnotes, which I always found quite funny. So you've got one here, they're on the side.
Yes.
You've got a picture of a foot at the bottom, because it's literally a foot writing this. I think the story is something like Frankenstein's foot got cut off and went into like a journaling career and started writing footnotes in books. I don't know. I just like the kind of like bizarreness of it, and it's taking it literally.
Yeah.
So this footnote says, ornamental deer are extremely expensive, having to be smuggled out of China in the pockets of explorers and diplomats, all the way from the Emperor's Palace in the absolutely forbidden I won't tell you again city. So it kind of takes like real places like the city in China, and then kind of turns it into like very like extreme, like silly almost, which I think is quite funny, especially when you're making a goth book for kids. You want to make it like Gothic but not absolutely terrifying that they don't want to read it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good way to get around that. And also I think this, or like how, like, again, the drawings, I just love the drawings because the characters, they're just like so, you can picture them in your head. Another footnote that I really liked was, Blue Gormley is one of the lesser known cheeses of England. Together with Somerset Stink, Malty Bishop and Cheddar Not So Gorgeous, it is also considered one of the stinkiest. Personally, I think it smells fine, because he doesn't have a nose. But yeah, it's just like ridiculous things but that just add to like the kind of flavour of the story and make it a very fun read.
Great, cool. Thank you very much.
Well done there. Well done.
Well done. Our first person within the time frame.
Yeah, excellent.
Excellent.
Very, very on point
Very
there.
on point, yeah.
Right,
Excellent.
you ready then, Phoebe?
Yeah.
You got cheerleader over there, so.
So this is Edgar Allan Poe Tales of Mystery and Imagination. It's a collection of his best stories, which are all Gothic. And yeah, it's really good. It's I feel like there's a lot of a man killing his wife, or a man killing his someone he lives with, or his family, or something. But I like there's like semantic fields of like body parts and like blood, and it's very interesting to read. And yeah, I really like The Telltale Heart. I read it in year 9 in English, and I really enjoyed it then. I haven't read all of this so far, so I can't really tell about all of the other stuff, but The Telltale Heart was very good when I read it.
Very macabre.
Very macabre. And it's very interesting how the narrator of that specific story is kind of paranoid and very definitely mentally unstable. But it's, I really like it.
Okay. And is The Fall of the House of Usher in there as well?
I think it is, yeah. If it's not, then it's going to be another collection. But of course, that is the one that's
yes, it is.
There you go.
They've just done a new version, I think, for Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen it yet, but it's actually based on all of his short stories. They just decided to name it after that one. So Telltale Heart is probably one of them that's in there, amongst others.
And then there's also The Black Cat, which is really interesting.
Oh, there you go, someone's favourite over there.
Yes, Black Cats, of course, are another Gothic trope.
Yeah, very much so, very much so.
Cross them at your peril.
Yeah, and it's a lot about jealousy, and I really like it.
Because it's about jealousy.
And jealousy, and I just like the goriness of it, and they're quite short stories, so it's quite easy to read like in short periods of time, which I like.
Okay.
So yeah, got the time
All right.
piece.
Brilliant, well done.
Phoebe, well
Good
done.
stuff, good stuff. You love your bad Garland toe. Okay, right, I think we can swap buzzer duty now. If you want to pass the buzzer over to Annabelle, if you're ready.
So you need your timer.
You got a timer, yeah? You got your iPad, excellent. Right, who's next? Who's next?
Who's next? Any
Year 12s at the back, perhaps, would like to.
Hannah, how about you? That'd be good.
Ah, yes, Dorian Gray.
Ready? So I've got The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and I think this is like one of the most amazing books. I listened to it on audiobook, and it's just hearing it aloud is also amazing. So it's about this man, Dorian Gray, who essentially falls in love with himself. I think anyone who does classics, like, it has pretty distinct echoes of like Narcissus, because his friend Basil paints the painting, the picture of Dorian Gray, and he just becomes so like mesmerised by seeing himself that he becomes obsessed with eternal youth and trying to hold on to it. And he's influenced by, or he allows himself to be influenced by some of his less moral friends. And basically, long story short, he gains eternal youth by transferring all his crimes and his age to the painting itself, which is a really cool concept. And then he pursues this life of like hedonism, and it just builds and builds and builds, like allowing himself to treat people however he wants, because all you can do is become obsessed with himself. And I think the idea of pursuing youth, like, it makes me think of like Botox and stuff, and like how
Victorian Botox.
how people are so obsessed with the idea of beauty. And it's Oscar Wilde, so you know the writing's going to be amazing, and it's so witty as well.
It's based on a real person too.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Alfred Douglas, who was Oscar Wilde's lover and absolutely caused his downfall.
Yeah, not a lovely person, unfortunately.
Yeah. There's a film, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's got like Colin Firth and Ben Barnes, but I think the book is so much better.
What would you say are the Gothic? So name me some of the prominent Gothic tropes that are on display in the book.
Ooh, like
The sense of foreboding.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's a mystery, isn't there?
The mystery, of course.
Basil knows that something's happened, but he never really works it out until the last minute, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And the imagery of
Yeah.
everything.
Oh,
Everything's very dark.
Not nice at all.
No.
Yeah. But I think it'd be pretty cool, and to be honest, if I was in the same situation, I would take it. So, I thought I might read you a bit of the preface because it's so good.
She's got time.
How are we doing?
20 seconds.
Okay, I'll read you the end of the preface. The end of the preface. He says, "We can forgive a man for making a useful thing as long as he does not admire it. The only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it intensely. All art is quite useless." And it's that typical Oscar Wilde wit. The whole book is really funny. Okay.
Brilliant. Well done, Hannah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Good work.
That's great.
You'll get your chance to press it.
Right, who's do the buzzer notes?
Right.
Well, I think you could do it for a few people. I think because Nuala did it for a few people. So, right, who's next?
Who's next?
I mean, we've got Miss Rio and mine. Josie, excellent.
Okay.
Oh, you have gone for that then.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Call back.
So I picked Uncle Montague's Tales of Terror. I wouldn't exactly describe it as my favourite Gothic novel. I watched it in Year 7, and I also started reading it in Year 7 after that. I got very scared reading it. It follows a boy who goes and listens to stories from his uncle. I remember quite distinctly there's one where a boy keeps killing animals and then starts like collecting them all, which is there's all the stories have some kind of creepy element, and quite often it's someone who does something slightly bad, and there's an underlying thing that it's almost karma will get back to them.
Okay.
Well,
that's something.
Yeah, and you start to realise. Well, they all centre around something happening to children, and you start to realise maybe Uncle Montague has something to do with all of this stuff.
Okay.
And so the final story ends up, you get the reveal of what is actually going on and who Uncle Montague is to all of these people. So,
He's a link.
Yeah.
So you would recommend it for
I would,
above Year 7?
It was a Year 7 production, you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's right. It was,
I think-
yes.
It's
I
pretty
think-
scary, though.
Yeah.
I think I am just someone who gets quite scared easily.
Ah.
So I think you could probably read it in Year 7 if you
If you like that kind of
I
thing.
like that
Light
kind of
on.
thing.
Yeah.
I
and
probably
not for,
would.
just before you go to sleep or anything.
Yeah, I think that was my mistake.
Some things are very scary. Too scary to be ready with now as an adult. Women in Black, I'll never read
Yeah.
that again.
Oh, we haven't talked about that yet.
I've done The Woman in Black. Seems I end up keep studying it over and over again, which always feels a bit ironic because it's like a Gothic play and she's like following them around. I end up studying this book like 3 times.
Is that it?
So-
Yeah.
So it's well worthwhile seeking out, yes? Because it's very scary.
Yeah,
If you like
Yeah.
scary.
You like scary. Okay. Thank
All right.
you very much, Josie.
You have 45 seconds left, but I'm just
Oh,
gonna do the
wow.
buzzer.
She did very well.
I think Annabelle's a bit disappointed. She's
Right, anybody else?
Anyone else? We've got Miss Rio and myself still to come, but we've still got plenty of time, by the way, because it's 3 minutes. We maybe we should go with 5 minutes on 3 minutes after all. I think we will. We will. After Miss Rio and I go, we'll just have a general chat, shall we? Right, Miss Rio, do you want to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, go.
Sure, there's no one else.
No?
No.
Alright, you can set the timer. Okay. I'm going to obviously talk about Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson.
Yay.
But mostly because a sequel has just come out.
Ooh.
Not written by Shirley Jackson because she's dead, but by her estate, so they've hired someone to write it. But Haunting of Hill House is basically just your classic horror-leaning Gothic haunted house, as the title would lead you to believe. Lots of bumps in the night, doors that are in different places, weird noises, just all of the sort of top creepy Gothic tropes that you can think of. Yeah. But this, I like it so much because you've got the classic haunted house in the terms of the physical haunting, but all of the main characters who get brought along to this haunted house, I won't tell you why, it's kind of a bit of a spoiler, are themselves haunted by something that's happened to them. So then when you're reading it, you're never sure if they're imagining these things based on experiences they've had sort of in their life, or if it's actually happening. So as a reader, you're sort of constantly on edge yourself just as much as they are, which is why it's so good when it comes to the Gothic. I haven't started this one yet, but basically it's all set in the same house, and it gets, I think, brought up for like a writer's retreat or something like that, and it says, it has the blurb, but it says, Hill House has been waiting patiently all these years. So the house is a character just as much as the main characters, the humans, which is also a very Gothic trope. If I've got time, I'll read. It's got one of the best, I think, openings to a book, in my opinion. It's just so spooky. I'll read it out to you. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against its hills, holding darkness within. It had stood so for 80 years and might stand for 80 more. Within, walls continued upright, bricks met neatly, floors were firm, and doors were sensibly shut. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone. Just spooky.
Creepy.
But yeah, it's just everything she writes in terms of the Gothic is great. She just clearly loved it and very much understood all of the tropes, but also sort of subverted them a little bit. Like I said, it's not just the house that's haunted, it's also the people, and it's all these things merging together. And yeah, kind of similar to Jekyll and Hyde and stuff like that, you know, like obviously it's scary the creature he becomes, but the scariest thing is sort of like the fact that he's still a human being, if that makes sense. It's quite a Gothic thing in itself, right? But yeah, if you want a very classic scary Gothic story, Haunting Hill House.
And its new sequel.
And its new sequel, which I'm not very far into yet.
And of course, there's other Shirley Jackson book you like as well, isn't there?
Yeah, We've Always Lived in the
Always
Castle.
Lived in the Castle.
Different type of, I don't know, it's more psychological. Oh, you got to do it.
I dragged it out. I dragged it out a bit so she could do it.
I thought I might have been a driver. All right, do you want to go?
Yeah, go on then. All right. Okay, I'm going to just do some fun audience participation, if that's all right. And I don't know if I'll be able to do it all. In fact, I'm not going to try and read it all. So, following on from Phoebe, Edgar Allan Poe, the master of the Gothic, I'm going to read the second half of The Raven, the poem, which, of course, I'm sure you all know is the story of the man who is haunted by a raven. Let's just say that. Let's keep it simple. Nevermore. So, this is what I want you to do. When I do this, you all need to say nevermore. Let's practice it. Nevermore. Brilliant, right, here we go. Then this ebony bird beguiling my side fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim, an ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. There you go, you got it. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word did he outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before, on the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. You're getting it. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore, that's his ex-lover. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, be it by that heaven that bends as above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within this distant Aden, it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all a seeming of a demon's heat that is dreaming. And the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my form and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. There you go. So yeah, I didn't do the whole of it. It is. It's extremely weird, and it's very difficult to read, as you can see, very rhythmic, and it's just... But has anyone heard of it before? Yeah. Has anyone seen The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, the first one? There you go. So it appears in that with Homer as the narrator and Bart as the raven taunting him from the bust of the door. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Oh, there you go. There you go. I dragged it out again. So there we go. Thank you.
I have something else that I just remembered about. I don't know if we have it here, but it's The Wolves of Willoughby Chase.
Oh, yes, we do. We do.
I read it in year 7 for English in my old school.
It's brilliant.
And it was really good. It's by Jane Aiken. And I loved reading it because it had like all of the Gothic tropes. And you had a young heroine. And it was just so weird. And it was... like weird and wonderful, but also very Gothic, and I think it's suitable for a year 7. I think you can read it. Like it's not like hard to read, and it's not like too bad. It is scary. I wouldn't read it at night, but it was very fun to read, and I loved it.
I met her.
Oh,
you met her?
Yeah, they when the film came out, they had a screening at the BFI on the South Bank, and she came. She was quite an old lady, so she died, I think, probably a year later. I did get her to sign a book, but I can't. I'll have to look at my own copy if it was that I took with me. But she was lovely. She was very, very interesting about how the story came into being, and she was really flattered because it was a long, long time after the book had come out that they made the film. So.
Yeah, I think so. I think basically the plot of the book is, so the girl Bonnie, is it Bonnie? Mm-hmm. It is Bonnie. She finds out her parents go on a trip, I think, and she has like a governess or like some sort of aunt, I think, who looks after her while they're away, and then they find out that her parents have died, and and then the evil Miss Slycarp is Slycarp, it says in the back. She's left in charge, and the cousins, Sylvia and Bonnie. Oh.
That's right.
It's been a while, so I can't really remember. But I loved reading it, and they like go on an adventure and escape and stuff, and it's really fun to read.
Because it's actually in a slightly alternative universe. It's not. Yeah. It's not Britain.
It's
Victorian Britain, but with a different...
So she basically predicted the, Eurotunnel, and the wolves from mainland Europe kind of, use the tunnel to, come into Britain, and that's why there are wolves.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good.
It's a really great choice. Thank you. Yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
Yes?
Yeah.
Well then.
Okay. I'm not sure if we have this book here. Wuthering Heights.
Oh, of course we have that.
Yeah.
Give us some credit.
I don't think it was. I don't think it's there. I think it's.
No, it's not yet.
Taken
Okay,
out.
I take it back.
Well,
all right. Well, someone's got it, but
it's out.
But I'm sure you don't need it. So.
Well, this one might be a bit short. Wuthering Heights, one of my favourite books ever. I first read it when I was, I think, in year 7 or year 8, and because I was going up to Yorkshire to see around the place where it would have been set, and so I thought, let's read the book, and that was a bad idea for a year 7, I think, but it's quite interesting because you read a book and there's at least one good character, right? None of them are good people in Wuthering Heights, and I think every 4th person is called Kathy.
Yes,
yeah, generational thing.
Yeah. But it's centred around this man who's come up to these estates in Yorkshire to stay for a bit, and his landlord is a man called Heathcliff. And
he's called Lockwood.
Yeah, the landlord is, I think, Heathcliff. Anyway, he goes up and he stays in Thrushcross Grange, which I always say wrong, but you know. And he goes up and stays there, and one night he goes out, and it's all dark on the moor because it's in Yorkshire, and it's always dark up there for some reason.
At night. It's not.
Yeah.
All the time. Yorkshire.
Well,
Miss Henley and I have both lived in Yorkshire, so careful how you...
Anyway, so he's up there on like the Yorkshire moors, and it's dark, and it starts snowing, and he says, "Oh dear," and he runs off to the nearest house, which is where Heathcliff lives, and it's Wuthering Heights, and he meets Heathcliff, and he's like, "Oh, can I stay here for the night? It's really dark outside. I can't go back," and he stays there. And he basically sees Heathcliff treat everyone really, really badly. And there are dogs, which is awful, you know? Anyway, and one night when he's sleeping there, he thinks there's like a tree tapping on his window or something. So he just ignores it for a bit, and then the tapping becomes more insistent. And he goes over and he opens the door and the window, and there's a ghost. And it's, well, if you've ever heard any Kate Bush song ever, it's probably this one, and it's someone screaming, "It's me, I'm Kathy, I've come home now, let me in, let me in, let me in." And he starts screaming and stuff, and Heathcliff runs in, and he sees Kathy, and he starts like lamenting his undying love for her, even though he had a wife and he has a kid, but you know. And basically eventually Mr. Lockwood goes home, and he says, "What was that about?" And the nurse or the maid who works at Thrushcross Grange says, "Oh yeah, I'll tell you about this and how they're all awful." And they go into the story about that.
That's just the beginning.
Yes, very short and very erudite introduction to Wuthering Heights.
Yes. Good job. Good job. Thank you.
Work out what's going on. Well done.
Right, Hannah's coming back.
Excellent.
It's a popular genre.
If we do Wuthering Heights, we've got to do Jane Eyre.
That's it, yeah.
This family is very prolific. So this is by Charlotte Bronte, who is the sister of Emily Bronte, who wrote Wuthering Heights, and they had another sister, Anne Bronte, who wrote some other stuff, Tenant of Wildfell Hall as well, which I loved. Yeah. You know, Charlotte Bronte told her it was a mistake and she shouldn't publish it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I know that she burned her unpublished second manuscripts, didn't she? Yeah.
Wow. And I think my siblings are bad.
Well, might have been, yeah, quite. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, this is about, and this has definitely Gothic themes. So it's about Jane Eyre. It follows her from childhood, really. She has a really rough childhood. Her parents die and she's in the care of her aunt. And then she gets sent to, is it like a convent? No, like a school.
It's very
it's like a religious school.
Lowood School.
Lowood.
Yeah.
And it's in a valley, which is quite unhealthy.
Yeah, very strict.
Yeah, she has a really horrible time there, but she meets this lovely girl. And then, yeah, I'm not going to spoil it. But, and then she becomes a governess at Mr. Rochester's house. And this is where the Gothic themes come in. It's like this really big old house, and all the time she can hear these noises coming from the attic, and she doesn't know what's going on. And it's so secluded from everywhere else. And if you think about it, she's had not really much contact with the outside world. Like, she's been in a school and she's been at her aunt's house, but this is the first time that she's... Yeah, it's really sad. She's like 18 or something, and he's like in his 30s. And there's like a romance plot between them. And I think it ties into that theme of like the heroine. But in the end, I think she takes charge of her fate and makes her own decisions. And I would really recommend this book if you haven't read it. It's one of my favourites, probably my favourite book ever. I've reread it so many times. And yeah, if you think about the setting, it's all amazing. Like even, I think when she arrives, the description of the house, it's like always raining, and like especially when at some point she's run away, I won't say when, and she's walking through this storm and she doesn't know where she's going. So yeah, and I think for Gothic literature it really is it all falls on the setting.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Great.
It's a great book. It's a great book. Thank you.
Yes, and it repays rereading, doesn't it? Even though you know what's going to happen. And there is, in fact, a prequel. Have you read that? Why Sargasso Sea?
Oh yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
And we've got one of the short stories about Jane Eyre.
Oh, that's right. Yes, Reader, I Married Him.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And it formed part of my sense of an ending, didn't it?
Yes.
I said it was, despite the Reader, I Married Him, that it was the next bit was not good enough, so I put it in the bin.
This is a Litsoc from a long time ago, by the way. We should point out.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone
Anybody
else?
else
Anyone want to go for seconds as well?
Seconds? No? Okay.
Miss Rio, do you want to go for seconds?
I think all the ones I would have spoken about have been spoken about. Actually, I'll speak about Wakenhurst.
Ah, yeah, good
Okay,
one. Good one.
I like that one a lot. Just to end off.
Yeah, that's a very modern one, isn't it?
Yeah, this came out probably only a few years ago, I think. I read it in lockdown. Yeah, 2019. But basically, this is similar to Jane Eyre and all these ones. It's got the perfect setting. It's a big old spooky house in Edwardian Suffolk, and there's a young girl called Maud, and it's just her and her father. And he is doing some interesting things surrounding sort of paintings of devils and the graveyard in the house of that, in the garden of the house. So you can sort of assume maybe he's doing something that's, well, very, very gothic. But she's only young. I think she's only meant to be 10 or 11. And so reading a book like this, where some not very nice things are going on from the perspective of someone young, is a really interesting experience, because she really just has no clue. She just has no idea, but she knows something's up. And so it's kind of like you reading it maybe know what's happening, but you're also reading it from her point of view, so you've got this kind of like double read going on. It's it's just all about witchcraft and spooky graveyards and big old houses, and she's sort of just left on her own all the time, just rambling around this big house trying to sort of piece together what she thinks her dad might be doing. But she's obviously very similar to Jane Eyre. She's extremely young and vulnerable, and
mad
just
woman.
has no knowledge of the world.
But
So
am I right? Because it's a lot. Because I read it in 2019 as well. Because she grows up though, doesn't she? And
does she?
I thought she did.
Oh, it's such a long time ago now.
Yeah,
She's still very young.
Yeah.
I think there is another boy that gets brought into the story. He's like works in the grounds.
Yes, I think so.
But he's also still quite young, so he tells her, "Oh, he's doing. Oh, this is happening. This is happening." But then completely throws off everything. Yeah. Anyway, it's probably for older readers, I think.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's got a red sticker on it. But any of you sixth forms or year 11s want something very spooky and quite weird. I still think about it quite often. This one, I don't know. Just I think more her as a character.
Right.
Just felt like a bit maternal over her. I was like, oh, she's just trying to just help her, but she's trying something, but she can't do it. Yeah. Similar to Jane Eyre, at the beginning when she's so young, you're just like, oh, you just feel for her, and but I like that one. And it's always raining in that book as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I've got seconds too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we all do.
There's so many of them.
I'm not going to talk about Cuckoo Song, but I'm going to talk about The Lie Tree by Frances Harding, which we have got.
Yeah, we just got that one instead. That's all.
I put this one instead. In fact, this is the third now, isn't it? But they are all relatively gothic. Lie Tree is quite interesting because it has a sort of motif of plants that are very sort of triffid-like. If you know what triffid is, it's a plant that's sort of come alive and is malevolent. And the Lie Tree certainly has that as well. Frances Harding, now she won
Costa.
She won the Costa, that's right. outright for The Lie Tree, which was the first time a novel ostensibly for young adults won, which was amazing. And in fact, this is, there's many of them now. But even this one is actually relatively gothic, isn't it? As on the table. So there's a sinister doll. Yes, dolls are fairly sinister in Gothic stories, definitely. And an accident, and a strange architect, according to this, who has dark designs on her family before it's too late. I do recommend Frances Hardinge. She's a very good writer, and she certainly knows how to scare without necessarily terrifying. So she's well worth seeking out.
That one is probably very scary. There's an alternate dimension. I don't want to give too much away, but with epic demons.
Oh right, okay.
Entering into our realm, and so that's
okay.
why we've singled. It's a big horror aspect, probably scarier than The Lie Tree.
Okay.
So, there you
So
go.
do you want another go?
I'll have another go.
Yes.
This
Raven.
I'll stay. Yeah,
I'll
actually talk about a book rather than just like read a poem. So this is the pinnacle of the Gothic genre as far as I'm concerned. So here we go. Mervyn Peake is the master of the macabre and a traveller through the deeper and darker chasms of the imagination. Now, Gormenghast is essentially, it's a fantasy. It's set in this world of Byzantine government and just decadence. Arcane rituals.
Yes.
People called Dr. Prunesqualler and other weird things like that. And it centres on a kitchen boy called Steerpike, who is a villain protagonist. And, it's up to you whether you root for him or not. But he has designs on the throne. He works his way up from a kitchen boy, and he gets into the good graces of the Groans, which are the royal family. And I won't tell you whether he succeeds or not, but he wants to, and maybe you root for him, maybe you don't. And there's lots of Gothic in here, because obviously there's the big crumbling castle, and it's when we think of big castle, I'm not talking about a standard castle. I'm talking about a castle that's as big as a city. It's a huge network labyrinth. More tropes, and it's all about him going from the shadows. Him murdering people from the shadows all the way through, and his big. He instigates. Horrible cataclysmic events. Again, I won't say what they are on his way. And then it's just all the characters are weird as well, because obviously you got the Groans, but then you got the twins, Cora and
I can't remember, but they're quite ancient, aren't they?
Yeah,
yes.
and then I've mentioned Dr. Prunesqualler. Then there's the cook, the grotesque cook. And then there's the librarian with the. He's almost like a wizard. He's got the beard and his stick. It's been a while since I've read it, so I've forgotten the names. And there's lots of intrigue and machinations as well. They're all at each other's throats, which gives Steerpike the opening in the first place. It's just a lot of fun, and it can be read by all ages. This is actually the second. It's a trilogy. This is the second in a trilogy, and it's the one that's called Gormenghast. But it is known as the Gormenghast trilogy. And so Titus Groan is ostensibly the main character, but Steerpike is the real main character. He's the one, and it's lots of brooding atmosphere and malevolence and sinister goings on, and you're only like a few pages away from some dark happening. And it's a lot of fun. Maybe I didn't make it sound like a lot of fun by describing it that way.
Sounds like more fantasy. Gothic.
Oh, it's fantasy.
It
is fantastic. It's set in an alternative world, but it has a lot of Gothic elements to it.
I feel like there's like
huge
subgenres of Gothic, like the main,
plenty.
and then there's like
plenty. So and it's just so it's definitely, if you love Gothic, it's a must read,
it's like Tolkien. It's world building.
Sounds a bit like Goth Girl, actually.
It could well have influenced it to a degree. The
Weird
sort of the sort
strange
of
characters.
the castle, the sort of.
There's sort of fairy tale elements. There's Gothic. There's world building. It's
high fantasy.
Yeah, it is. It's
but very dark.
It's very dark.
It's way darker than Lord of the Rings or anything. Anything like that.
Definitely.
So and that's why I like it so much, because my beating dark heart, my telltale heart.
Excellent.
Anyone else heard of it? Or I thought I saw some smiles of recognition from it. Do you like it?
I love it.
Yes. Excellent. So there we go. Right. Is that time or?
Is that it?
I guess
Oh yes, it's 5 o'clock. It's the witching hour.
Yeah, and it's getting dark outside.
Now it's dark outside, so be
Beware
safe
the
going
wolves of
home.
Willoughby Chase.
Yes. Get home safely, and we'll see everybody next week.
All right,
Bye
take care.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.